KBIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique, but you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers have won 6 straight after sweeping Pittsburgh Sunday. 4 Dodgers pitchers combined to allow the Pirates only 2 hits and a 4-0 win. The Dodgers won their 80th game of the season. They are 1 game behind Milwaukee for the best record in Major League Baseball. The Dodgers are now 15-13 since hanging out with Trump at the White House on July 23rd. Things are beginning to look up for the Dodgers with 31 games left in the regular season. We are 16 days away from the start of the NFL regular season on Wednesday, September 9th. First time in NFL history, the league is playing its regular season opener on a Wednesday. New England is at Seattle to take on the defending Super Bowl champs. The Rams and San Francisco kick off their regular season on Friday, September 11th in Melbourne, Australia. First NFL regular season game down under. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley.
Culture in my lifetime has been as impactful, if not more impactful, than politics or law or any other pursuit or business. I like to say culture is undefeated.
Culture is undefeated. That's what Council President Marquise Harris Dawson says. And you know what? He's right. Culture is undefeated. But here's the problem. You don't get to celebrate the culture while ignoring the people who created it. And that's where this procrastination Crenshaw conversation gets real. As you know, the community sent a formal letter to Harris Dawson. We're still waiting for an official response from the city. The deadline is Friday, September 4th. But in the interim, Harris Dawson penned an open letter to the community. Okay, that's fine, but responding is not the same as answering. That said, let's not confuse fixing the parking, repairing the street lights, and repaving streets and sidewalks with finishing Destination Crenshaw. The community was promised a transformational project. So, where is it? When is this thing going to be finished? The council president says the project is being delivered on a timeline. What timeline? That's not an unreasonable question. And that's not an attack. It's not division. That is accountability. And then there's the business interruption money. So in his letter, Harris Dawson says that more than $1 million went to Doolin's on Crenshaw and additional assistance went to a few other individuals. Oh, really? Who received the money? How much money? And who didn't? I can assure you a whole lot of folk didn't get that money. How do I know? I'm getting the phone calls. You see, transparency should not scare anybody. That's how accountability works. And that's why in our letter, we ask for an audit. But instead, what do we get? A discussion about Tavis Smiley, the pastor, the parishioners, the business owners, the people asking the questions, their motives, their ambitions, their character. Well, let me tell you something. When you can't answer the questions, attacking, insulting, and gaslighting the persons asking the questions doesn't make the questions disappear. It just makes people ask why you won't answer it. Let me be clear. We don't want to fight with the council president. We want the project finished. because the people of Crenshaw are not on the sidelines, Mr. President. They are Crenshaw. And if culture really is undefeated, then respect the culture, respect the people, respect the businesses, and most importantly, respect the questions. Now, answer them. The Crenshaw Corridor community is still waiting, and September 4th is fast approaching. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As always, we welcome your feedback.
Just talking louder and say nothing and say nothing.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, oh, come on and talk with me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Have you heard about the cocaine scandal at Penn State University? If you haven't heard about the cocaine scandal at Penn State University, it's because the news doesn't want you to hear about the cocaine scandal at Penn State University. I call this the off-campus defense. What the Penn State cocaine story tells us about who gets to be an individual. 14 people were charged on August 17th in what Pennsylvania's Attorney General called an upper-level trafficking organization. Kilos of cocaine moved from New York and Philadelphia into State College. The product was cut and bagged inside 2 fraternity houses, and it was sold to students through Snapchat and paid for through cash apps. Investigators believe the operation cleared hundreds of thousands of dollars. 13 of the accused were Penn State students. The 14th is a father accused of hiding a safe full of drugs and cash. Now count what happened next. One fraternity was placed on interim suspension. The university announced that the other fraternity was not recognized and operated outside its oversight. A spokesperson said Penn State was horrified. No president resigned. No board convened an emergency session. No accreditor sent a letter. And as of this writing, not one of the 4 defendants still enrolled has been reported expelled. Students went back to class the following week. I want to be careful here because carelessness is the whole point. Every one of these defendants is presumed innocent. Student discipline is confidential by federal law. It is entirely possible that proceedings are underway that we cannot see. But hold that thought, because the presumption of privacy, the presumption of process, the presumption that an institution is not defined by its worst actors is exactly the currency that gets distributed unevenly in this country, and that distribution is the story. Ask yourself an honest question. If 14 students at Howard University, at Southern, at Jackson State had been indicted for running a kilo-level cocaine operation out of 2 campus houses using pledges as labor, would the coverage have stopped at the students? You know it wouldn't. There would be a hearing in a state legislature within a week. There would be a question about accreditation because HBCUs fight for accreditation, and that's always the pressure point. Morris Brown lost its accreditation in 2002. Bennett College spent 2018 and 2019 fighting for its life. Every failure at a Black college gets routed through the same question. Does this institution deserve to continue existing? Cable News has not found a Penn State official. That's all they have. A Penn State official. It would have not found the president, the board chair, the alumni association, and a member of Congress. The chyron would not say fraternity, it would say campus. It would probably say culture. That is the asymmetry. White institutional failure is narrated as individual deviance. Black institutional failure is narrated as institutional character. 14 white students trafficked cocaine, and the story is 14 young men who made bad choices. 14 Black students do the same thing, and the story is what's gone wrong at that school, with that community, and with those people. Notice how the language protects the word frat bros appeared in national coverage. The alleged kingpin's Dean's List record and his interest in finance were reported alongside his charges. Humanizing detail offered without any irony. 14 defendants and 8 of them walked out of the courthouse charged with possession and paraphernalia, misdemeanors. in an enterprise the Commonwealth itself described as coordinated and highly profitable. I do not say that to demand harsher treatment for these young men. I say the opposite. This is what proportion and mercy look like. This is what it looks like when prosecutors see young people and think about the rest of their lives. I've argued for years that the pardon power exists precisely so that command can be joined by mercy. The Constitution fused the two clauses in a single sentence on purpose. My objection is not that these students were treated with grace. My objection is that grace is rationed. When the counterfactual for 40 years in 1986, Congress wrote a statute that punished crack cocaine 100 times more severely than powder cocaine, a molecule, different neighborhoods, different sentences. It took until 2010 to move that ratio to 18-1, and 18-1 is still a number that requires explanation. Nobody offered those defendants an off-campus defense. Nobody reported their dean's list. And here's the sentence in the Attorney General's own release that should stop all of us. Cutting and packaging cocaine was, for some pledges, an indoctrination into the fraternity. Indoctrination, initiation. This is not a word we use lightly, and it's not the word we normally extend to the young. When a teenager in Inglewood or Crenshaw is handed a package by an older man he wants to impress, we do not call it indoctrination. We call him a dealer, and we charge him accordingly. Pledges at Penn State were recruited, and so was he. The difference is that one institution gets to say the houses were off campus and be believed. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward right here at KBLA.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
The KBLA 1580 app puts the realest conversations right in your pocket. Stream live wherever you are in the world. No static. No searching the dial. A crystal clear connection 24/7, exactly when you want it. We recommend that you keep automatic updates enabled. Set it and forget it. So the app stays up to date with store requirements, bug fixes, and new features as we roll them out. Download the KBLA 1580 app today and stay plugged into the conversation everyone's having.
The way I do laundry hasn't really changed until now. Have you seen the new Tide Evo? It may look different, but now I get it. It's a super concentrated laundry detergent towel from Tide, packed with 6 layers of cleaning power. You just toss it in the washer and it dissolves instantly in water. It's built differently to fight tough stains. I love it because Tide Evo comes in a lightweight cardboard box. There's no bulky plastic bottle taking up space. It's perfect for me because I have no space for anything, especially with having twins. It's double the mess and double the load every time. And the biggest perk, it makes getting a Tide clean feel so easy. Try the new Tide Evo super concentrated laundry detergent today.
Small businesses are the heart of America. But you don't have to go it alone. As the nation's largest nonprofit resource of expert business mentoring, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses for free. Get the connections, education, and guidance you need with SCORE. We're ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
As we go a little something like this.
Hey, it is me, D.L. Hughley, and I am thrilled to be heard weekdays in my hometown on KBLA Talk 1580. So check out the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show weekdays from 2 to 4 p.m. exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580. We got a whole lot to talk about, let me tell you. That's what the way.
Unapologetically progressive. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580. We don't tell you what to think. Just what to think about.
What's good, KBLA delegation? I am Miles Lowe, and I'm excited to be joining the weekend lineup right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Join me every Saturday at 12 noon for the Do Better Show, where we get into the world of tech, AI, the creator economy, navigating your mental health through it all, and have conversations with founders to find out how real people are making real money right now. It's not a course, not a subscription. Class is in session every weekend, live on the air. If you knew better, you do better, right? So let's make a better you. The Do Better Show, every Saturday, 12 noon, and replaying again at 7 p.m. right here on Unapologetically Progressive KBLA Talk 1580. We got a lot to talk.
Just in case you missed our Procrastination Crenshaw Town Hall.
I'm an Eaton Fire hero. I was trapped there January 7th, 2025. So I was awarded the Carnegie American Red Cross and the Kiwanis Lifesaver Award. So to me, this looks like a slow burn. You constantly see Dr. Hardy, Pastor Caldwell, Mr. Smiley here. Their business is slowly impacted. Now in Altadena, it was a quick burn. Everybody left. Everybody got priced out. They didn't have enough money to stay afloat. They couldn't rebuild their property. So to me, this is a target for the developers. In my opinion, having been in Altadena for 18 months, still today, I still feed all of those people there because they're still displaced because they can't afford to come back. So what do? They move down to the Inland Empire, or they just call it a day and they go back to another state. So it's important to hold leadership accountable because as of right now, they've abdicated their responsibility. They just show up for the cameras and they don't even come to see you.
Keeping them in check. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's Moving Mountain Monday on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, and on this Monday, we find ourselves in the first hour in Mr. Krim's classroom. Mr. Krim is an Emmy-nominated producer, public teacher, anti-racist educator, hate crime victor, who uses Black historical narratives to empower and educate through a culturally equitable lens. Ernest Krim, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, what's up, brother? It's good to be here with you again.
Brother, I need you to process Penn State through a culturally equitable lens.
Oh, man. You know what? First off,
bro,
I got to say, I'm glad that you wrote that this week because I heard about it and it left the news cycle just as quickly. And as we begin this week on Monday, the media entities, the mainstream media, they want to bury this story. So culturally equitable lens, right? This is what I would challenge people to do, especially if I was working with educators and I'm talking about how we view our kids, and how we view our kids determines how we discipline and reprimand them. We know Black children, boys and girls, are reprimanded at higher rates for doing the same thing as white children or other even other people of color, but also too for subjective things that you could interpret based on how you feel. This is what I did while you were talking. I went to Google, I typed in Penn State, and I went to news. And I would, for everybody listening, watching online, I want you to tell me, yes or no. Was this the top story? Do you think it was a top story? And you could probably tell based on how I'm talking that it wasn't. I go to Penn State, Google, I go to news section. The first story is about the football team. The second story is about the football team. The third story is about Penn State fans and the coach. The fourth story, I'm still going, is talking about the volleyball team. When I get to the fifth section of Google, then I see something from the New York Post a day ago. Then I see a few more stories. I barely see any pictures. Now, we know how the New York Post operates, so they do have some of these pictures. But any other publication, just like you said, there's nothing, right? If we, just like you said, were to come up with a similar story relative to a HBCU, those stories would be everywhere. The faces everywhere. And the fact that you broke down that these children are, these young adults are still enrolled in college is mind-boggling. But when we even think of drug dealer, right? If we think of gang member, right?
You won't even get accepted. You won't even get accepted to college.
Right.
It's not possible that if you have a felony record for selling drugs in your community and you apply to a college, including an HBCU, there is a strong probability with that conviction you're not going to get in. But here is a cocaine ring, a conspiracy. And it doesn't just stop with those who were pushing dope with the drug dealers on campus. It also includes Zelle and PayPal and other forms of transaction for drugs being distributed across the campus. When they make that list public, and they should, of who's been purchasing cocaine at Penn State University and how long the cocaine ring has been taking place and how many frat brothers are involved. And since the cocaine came from New York, that's an interstate problem that should get the attention of the DEA and certainly the Federal Bureau of Investigation. That's interstate trafficking of cocaine. I mean, these are serious offenses to which not only do you do time, but you can be felonized for the rest of your life. And I see another pattern here, Ernest. That is the absence of the federal government in investigations leave their crimes as state offenses. Whether it's the investigation into Nolan Wells, we don't know what the facts are in that case. We'll obviously be hearing more and more about that as that continues in the public sphere. But as Penn State also enters the public sphere, without a federal investigation, it's left to the locals to determine how those young people will be treated. And you better believe that the Alumni Association at Penn State doesn't want the reputation of Penn State to go down this way. And that is exactly why you're able to Google Penn State, and way down on the bottom of the list is a cocaine scandal. If it's on the list at all, like it's out of the news as fast as it entered the news. Ernest? Similar
to the Nolan Wells situation, where we were finding out that some of the young white men who were on that boat or in the area were connected. I believe one of them, their mother was a judge or something like that. I would not be surprised if we find out that with this same situation, their parents have some type of high position. You even pointed out in your editorial, and I didn't know this, so thank you for pointing this out. You said, and I quote, the 14th is a father accused of hiding a safe full of drugs and cash. How is this?
A dope dealer. He's a dope dealer.
Like
he's the honorable dope dealer at Penn State University.
And when you consider what happened at Penn State with their coaches, right? I'm trying to remember the name.
Paterno, all of them.
Sandusky, that whole situation, right? That's something, again, we don't like. If this is the same school, what is that reputation like if that's us? And what does it look like for Black children if they were involved at this PWI? Is that same level of protection afforded? We are still, as a community, recovering, y'all, from the war on drugs, not fully recovered, because even we think about California, you think about Illinois, where it's now legal, and I see dispensaries pop up everywhere. The ownership in our community is relatively low, right? And even that tax money being used to repair communities that was harmed is not happening fast enough. So now we have generations of Black folks and families who are harmed by this war on us. Because that's what Richard Nixon's aide said. That's the conversation they had. They said they have to criminalize or associate us with selling these drugs so that they can re-enslave us. This is what we're dealing with since the 70s, after the civil rights movement and Black Power movement. We are still fighting these forces today. If you go through any of our communities, you can still see the dilapidated buildings, the businesses, the empty lots, the underfunded schools, the liquor stores that came as a result of this war.
So what do you make of this idea that one fraternity was placed on interim suspicion or suspension? Interim suspension? Man, if I'm an Omega, man, if Omega or the Kappas or the Alphas were selling cocaine and packaging it in little packets and selling it on Penn State's campus, do you think we would get an interim suspension?
Brother, like, just the idea, because we both know, and every brother and sister listening right now knows what would have happened. Like, can you imagine the headlines on the front page of every paper across America on the campus? Like, this is it counters every narrative that we have. Even when we think about the TV shows that are rooted on people from our community who gain wealth selling drugs. Like, we got to remember, in America, the first gangsters weren't us. the first dope dealers, drug dealers, you know what I'm saying? Prohibition era. Like, we talking, come on, man. Al Capone and them.
The university announced that another fraternity was not recognized and operated outside of its oversight. But this is Penn State University. And every security officer on that campus is a state security official. This is not a private college. This is Pennsylvania State University, Penn State, which means if someone is off of the campus bringing drugs onto the campus, yes, the Penn State Campus Police Department, which is part of the state of Pennsylvania, has the right to investigate an organization off of the campus because it is a state police department to determine the harm that it's bringing to the campus itself. But for the campus to throw up its arms and say, we have nothing to do with the fraternity off of the campus's grounds, that's just not true. That's just not true. You have jurisdiction over the entire state for any criminal activity that could impact that university. No doubt about it.
And consider the generational harm to Black communities in that very state. The idea of police monitoring our neighborhoods for years and years. And I even reflect on, well, how long was this going on then? When did it actually start? You know, because when we find out about it, it's not when it started. It didn't start, you know, this school year. It didn't start just when these young men went to college. Like, so if we're talking about parents being involved too, how deep does this go? And what is the occupation of that parent? I'm certain that they're just not, you know, someone that has a fast food worker of some sort. I'm sure they have some high level position in our government. So if we don't continue to talk about this, this is what we have to continue to understand, y'all. Like, media framing has a humongous and tremendous impact on how we view each other as a community, especially if we aren't critically thinking. If we just ingest that without reflecting on what we just came across, then it will negatively impact us. We have to be critical of every plate the media puts in front of us. Because this has been the norm in this society more than it has been the norm in our community. And one of the things we have to continue to bring up is in many Black communities across America, drugs came in as a result of manufacturing jobs being taken away. This was an intentional design. The very community that I am living in now had a thriving Black business district from the 50s, 60s, 70s, even earlier than that. But when they got rid of those Caterpillar manufacturing jobs and outsourced them overseas, all the Black folks who came from the South, from Mississippi and Arkansas to the North to get those jobs were now in poverty. So the base of people who kept the Black businesses thriving were now lacking employment. So instead of then giving those same communities an opportunity to thrive and make some money in a different way, what do you see happen? Two things: drugs in a community where a lot of people have not even left a block or the city, and you see an increase in private prisons and jails.
Student discipline is confidential by federal law, but not if you're selling cocaine. They get to hide behind federal law and not tell us what the student discipline is. What we do know within the last 6 months is that Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth have spent a lot of time in the Caribbean blowing up speedboats with cocaine in it. But cocaine on Penn State's campus, as far as I can tell, again, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. As far as we can tell, we cannot see any proceedings that may or may not be underway by the federal government. But the federal government is clearly very silent at this point. And as far as I can tell, no one has been arrested. No federal court judge has been called to arraign those who have been arrested, caught in a massive conspiracy at Penn State University. Again, everyone in this matter is innocent until proven guilty. Just on the other side of town, way over here at KBLA Talk 1580, we are wondering how we would be treated if a cocaine conspiracy were taking place on one of our campuses. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More when we come forward in Mr. Krim's classroom.
It's Afternoon Drive Time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Esther Dillard with BIN News Now. Black Republican Florida Congressman Byron Donalds is under fire for blaming a measles outbreak on illegal immigration. Here's what he said on CBS's Face the Nation Sunday.
The reason why we have seen a measles outbreak in certain parts of the country is because of rampant illegal immigration into the United States.
Donalds pointed to outbreaks in El Paso and Southwest Florida, but offered no data to back the claim. The trial of the man accused of orchestrating Tupac Shakur's 1996 murder continues today in Las Vegas. Dwayne Keefe D. Davis is accused of planning the drive-by shooting that left the rapper fatally wounded 30 years ago. He's pleaded not guilty and could face life behind bars if convicted. And Pete Buttigieg is making a fresh play for black voters in South Carolina. According to CNN, some say this is for a possible 2028 presidential run. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers have won 6 straight after sweeping Pittsburgh Sunday. 4 Dodgers pitchers combined to allow the Pirates only 2 hits and a 4-0 win. The Dodgers won their 80th game of the season. They are 1 game behind Milwaukee for the best record in Major League Baseball. The Dodgers are now 15-13 since hanging out with Trump at the White House on July 23rd. Things are beginning to look up for the Dodgers with 31 games left in the regular season. We are 16 days away from the start of the NFL regular season on Wednesday, September 9th. First time in NFL history, the league is playing its regular season opener on a Wednesday. New England is at Seattle to take on the defending Super Bowl champs. The Rams and San Francisco kick off their regular season on Friday, September 11th in Melbourne, Australia. First NFL regular season game down under. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. Let's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Number 14. That's where Talkers Magazine ranked Tavis Smiley on their heavy 100 list of the 100 most important talk radio hosts in America. Join Tavis weekdays, 9 a.m. to noon or 9 p.m. to midnight. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Don't be anxious or confused about AI. Take control of your career when you get the skills to tackle real business problems and design specialized solutions. HR Dive reported that entry-level talent with applied AI credentials can receive up to a 25% salary boost. But where do you find training that you can trust? Future-proof your career and deliver more value with Humans Lead the Way AI. Their hybrid learning courses use practical definitions, real-world examples, and strategic insights to help you and your team understand AI with confidence. No magic, no hacks, no shortcuts. Just practical knowledge that helps you use AI more successfully. Don't wait. AI can never replace people who know how to use it well. Register for courses today at humansleadtheway.com. That's humansleadtheway.com.
Hi, I'm John Wood Jr., host of the Kingdom Project, weekends on KBLA Talk 1580. Black America has a tradition of holding the United States of America to the standard of her stated principles when it comes to democracy. When the country has said all men are created equal, Black people have demanded that we mean it. In the long history of holding America accountable to the promise of her ideals, no name looms larger than Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day.
But as the country has drifted from the ideals of Dr. King, the Do Black people have a special obligation to revive Dr. King's philosophy? Furthermore, does the Black church have a responsibility to renew the moral leadership of America and reacquaint the nation with the gospel principles that inform Dr. King's philosophy? Tune in Sundays at 9 a.m. Pacific as I make the case for the revival of the philosophy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the moral leadership of the Black church, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We're in the classroom with Mr. Ernest Krim. Ernest Krim has created content for companies such as HBO, Hulu, Disney, Paramount, the History Channel. He is the CEO of Krim's Cultural Consulting LLC, an international speaker who's spoken at Harvard, University of Chicago, Microsoft, and Colin Kaepernick's Know Your Rights camp, and audiences in the UK and Canada. Ernest, welcome forward to the show.
Hey, thanks again for having me, brother.
Ernest, things have to be going really, really bad in Gary, and they are. It's like the Katrina of the North now, given that the storm is more than 12, maybe 13 days old. Thousands are still without power. You know things are bad anytime the average resident of Gary is talking about we need Jackie and Marlon and Janet and Prince and Paris to come on to Gary and give us some help because they need to bring as much attention to it as possible. But I want to take this opportunity to give a shout out to Mayor Eddie Melton. Eddie Melton was a state representative, and now he is the mayor of Gary, Indiana. And I'm telling you, as sure as I'm sitting here, Gary, Indiana is experiencing a renaissance. I mean, for the first time in like 40 years, they have streetlights, literally working crews who put up streetlights to light. They have stoplights at major intersections because of the leadership of Mayor Melton. He's been negotiating with major industries to locate to Gary, Indiana. I mean, if I've ever seen a community transform, it has been under the leadership of Mayor Eddie Melton. And then a massive storm blew through Gary and almost blew Gary back into the Jurassic period. This is not something that we should be. This is a tragedy because of the renaissance that Mayor Melton and his team has been bringing forward in the city of Gary. Ernest, your thoughts about what we can do to help and just how awful the response has been from the powers that be in the state of Indiana for northwestern Indiana.
I think we are able to see in this situation the stark difference in having a leader in place at the state level that is willing to help. Because when you think about Chicago and the Chicago area, having the leadership that we have versus when you cross that line to Indiana. And we know that for these things to work, you have a great mayor, such as the one that they have in Gary, but you have to have support from the state leadership. You have to have support from the state governor. And Indiana's a red state. And we cross that fictional line when we're driving on I-80 and things change drastically. You know, it's not just the fact that folks in Illinois can go over there and maybe buy some fireworks or something like that. It's the difference of the response time. It's the difference in how people are viewed, right? And Gary, we kind of jokingly say for folks who are from Chicago or from the area, we say those are our cousins, you know? It's not that far away. It's a 30-minute drive. I mean, you have all these locales like Milwaukee and Detroit and, you know what I'm saying, Minneapolis. Like these places are all of us here in the Midwest. And people came to Gary the same reason they came up north to Chicago and the same reason they came up north to Milwaukee, Detroit, and where I'm at in Joliet and Minneapolis and, Des Moines, Iowa, for example, like for the jobs and opportunity. And Gary has been a strong, bustling community. We got to shout out Mayor Richard Hatcher, who was the one of two first black mayors of large cities in the late 60s, and bringing in the National Black Political Convention with your father in 1972. Like, these were pivotal moments. Now, a lot of people, of course, know the Jackson family, we should, but we also have to know that they were a hub for black political power, right? And my introduction to even being able to go to Gary only came a couple years ago, even though I was always close. I went out there and I spoke, and that was the first thing I noticed when I got there. I got there a couple hours early because I wanted to see, of course, some historical landmarks. And I was just kind of blown away at the fact that, I couldn't believe that there were so many, not just abandoned buildings, but like abandoned schools, like full on abandoned high schools. And like you said, no stoplights and things like that. And we have to realize, y'all, when we see this in black communities, we cannot be under the assumption that it is because of black people not working hard enough. This is a system-wide issue. When the steel industries leave, when the industry that employ people, that lure them from the South leaves, then the economy tanks. We're talking about most of the schools there, y'all, are charter schools. The following year, so last year, I went back to Gary. I volunteered for a career day, and I saw many of the same things, right? So here's the lesson I want to give folks, because Gary is still struggling. I want to shout out, well-known folks like Glenn Robinson, who used to play in the NBA, who donated, who's from Gary. Darius Garland, who plays for the Cleveland, what is the team, man? I can't think of the name right now, and I'm an NBA fan, but you know what I mean. Cavaliers.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Cavaliers. I didn't know he was from Gary. I saw Trader Truth, who's a rapper from Houston. I saw Keith Lee, the TikTok creator. All these folks are converging to help out. That's what Mutual Aid looks like. One of the first things I did was hit up my contact that brought me to Gary to see if there was a reliable link to give, and I started posting it. Mutual Aid, y'all, looks like when we see a problem, we go immediately. We don't wait. We don't have to get permission from an elected official. We just go there. And I'm so happy to see that as I was looking at all these other folks going, to your point, the mayor was on the front lines advocating for his people. He didn't leave his people. He's there and he's speaking up. And I think that we have to remember, if we can't do anything, if we can't get there, find a way to give. Hit me up on Instagram at Crim's Class Pod. I have several posts about this. And make sure that the infrastructure in your community is prepared, because it can happen to anybody. Memphis is without power right now. The south suburbs of Chicago deal with it. And we know our folks in Cali have dealt with this on another level with wildfires as well.
Yeah, we got power in the south suburbs, which is the congressional district that I used to represent, because the governor of our state wants to be president. So you better believe the lights are going to get turned on in the state of Illinois. And I mean, there is nothing that separates us from Gary, Indiana, but a street sign. I mean, a street light. I mean, we cross the street and we are in the state of Indiana. At just about another 10-minute ride, you're right there in Gary, Indiana. And I would like to make one little editorial comment to what Mr. Krim said. The steel mill is still there. It's automated now. Thousands of people don't have to go to work at the steel mill to produce the same amount of steel that it produced when it had thousands of people going to work there. It's just automated. Fewer people, better automation, more productive steel, more profit at a higher rate than they've ever had in the history of the company. Hancock Building was built in Gary, Indiana. The steel was taken to downtown Chicago. The Sears Tower, now the Willis Tower, its steel came from Gary, Indiana, produced very close to the city of Chicago. What really happened in Gary, Indiana, and it's really easy for us to look at black folks and for us to blame ourselves. What really happened in Gary, Indiana is when Mayor Hatcher was elected, the white folks decided to leave Gary rather than have a black mayor. And you know what they did? They went and started a whole new city, not far from Gary, Maryville, Indiana. They incorporated a brand new city rather than live in Gary with us. Now, we've been living with them since the beginning of Gary. Joe Jackson worked in the steel mill. We've been living there with them for a long time. But when we won politically, they left. And with them went the tax base to Maryville. With them went industry to Maryville. With them went the hotels and the convention centers and the entertainers, always performing even to this day, the black ones in Maryville. None of them know the history, and none of them are, quote unquote, trying to come to Gary to perform. However, I got to give some love to Eddie Melton because this past summer I went to a concert, bunch of old school, fantastic artists at the baseball stadium in Gary, Indiana, and the people were having a wonderful time. He was bringing excitement and culture and entertainment and love back to the community, and the community tangibly could feel it. I've got to give him love. Denise Williams from Gary, our producer in my ear from Gary, the town's funeral home. She ain't gonna let that go. Jocelyn's. Where's Jocelyn's? Is she over on Calumet Avenue? Over on Calumet Avenue.
No,
her Breakfast Club.
Broadway.
On Broadway Avenue, the Breakfast Club in Gary, and the little hot dog stand over at the Village, the little red hot dog stand. Listen, something really is a sight to behold. They have a full mall. I mean, it must be 100,000 square feet. And every single business has been out of there for 50 years, except for one hot dog stand, which is where everybody go to lunch to get their hot dog because the hot dog is that good. Now, I ain't gonna tell you who owns the mall because they probably own malls all over the country, but they use the mall in Gary as the mall that's losing money, that hasn't made money in 40 years, but that's their tax write-off. And they write it off against the malls that they have in big cities and other places. That too is one of the crimes that is of Gary. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward right here on KBLA.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Just in case you missed our Procrastination Crenshaw Town Hall.
My name is Asata Umoja. I'm with the Hyde Park Organizational Partnership for Empowerment, which is at the southern end of Crenshaw. And this community has been greatly impacted. As a matter of fact, one of the things that we're most concerned about is just being totally neglected. And what I mean is being excluded from the process. When this project first started, they should have made sure that our organization, since we were most impacted, was in there. So we've been excluded, and we've seen commercial properties be taken for art projects. And we're very concerned about these are spaces that could help build economic growth and development in the community. And what this community needs more of is economic development, not art. I mean, I like art. It's a good thing. But they're putting the cart before the horse, because without a solid economic foundation, what they are calling cultural tourism absolutely has no significance and no meaning. And this community is going under if we don't stop and do something to help build that economic foundation and support the businesses that are the tax base for this community to build the kind of services that we need. And the response from our leadership is totally inadequate.
Holding them accountable. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Tired of being locked out of job opportunities and shut down by systemic racism? KBLA Talk 1580 stands with you in fighting for the rights of Black workers, and we don't black down. The Los Angeles Black Workers Center is a dynamic alliance of workers, organized labor, community-based organizations, clergy, students, and scholars working collectively to improve the position of the Black working class. The LA Black Workers Center takes a comprehensive approach to addressing the Black jobs crisis. Their programs promote access to quality jobs, racial equity in hiring and retention, discrimination-free job sites, and they prepare Black workers for employment in high-wage career track jobs. The LA Black Workers Center supports workers who need help protecting their rights on the job. They give workers access to quality jobs and remove systemic barriers to employment. And they are advocating for a fair deal for Black workers in the new Los Angeles City Charter. To sign up for free career readiness training, get involved in organizing, or learn about union apprenticeship programs and trade registries, please visit lablackworkercenter.org. That's lablackworkercenter.org. Together, we can beat the Black jobs crisis and build a more equitable Los Angeles. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. At the heart of the Al Wooten Center's mission for good citizenship and academic excellence is a desire to ensure that every student avoids the kind of lifestyle and overcomes the kinds of challenges that led to the murder of Al Wooten Jr. In 1990, founder Myrtle Fay Rumpf opened the center in honor of her son's life. In 2026, they are serving more than 300 students in grades 3 through 12 annually online and on site at their youth center and other sites in the South LA area. The Al Wooten Jr. Youth Center takes a neighborhood approach to the revitalization and empowerment of a community in crisis. The Wooten Center provides free after-school and summer programs to help students in grades 3 through 12 attain grade-level proficiency and promotion, high school graduation, and college and career access and success. The Al Wooten Center focuses on academics, STEM, the arts, and so much more. Join them for an enriching experience that sparks creativity and nurtures young minds. Tap in at Wooten Center. That's WootenCenter.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. So let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything. The Capital One Saver card is at table 27 and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu.
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We're in the classroom with Ernest Krim, Moving Mountain Monday. Ernest, welcome forward to the show.
Thanks again for having me, brother.
Brother, it is my intention to opine on the issues in Gary, Indiana at the top of the hour. And so I hope that our listeners will stay with us through that process with Reverend Dr. Terry Ford Owens, where we're going to continue this conversation about what's taking place in Gary, Indiana, because we cannot allow it to happen without our involvement, our engagement, because there is a double standard here. We are not being treated, getting our power. Everybody who has a refrigerator is has lost all of their food. They can't keep it. They can't store it. There's no night. There's no lights at night. Students can't study and class has already begun. Without basic air conditioning and infrastructure in this heat, mold will continue to spread through the city and it could kill people. And so the devastation could be very long lasting if we don't do our part. And that's what we are going to talk about in the next hour right here at the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. I was also reading a really interesting article that in order to help fight some of the potential wildfires in Los Angeles and the state of California, Universal Studios has about 400 goats. That's it. Correct. Goats. They herd up to about 400 goats annually to naturally clear dry brush and grass its steep hillsides, significantly reducing wildfire risk during Southern California's fire season.
Wow.
I'm glad that they're using goats.
Learn something new.
There's enough unemployed Negroes out here to clear brush too, and our Hispanic brothers and sisters. And derelicts of destitution sitting out here on these streets with nothing to do. Also, we can clear brush. Maybe not faster than the goats.
We can figure this out.
Let me give it to you, Ernest. We can figure this out. That's a song right there.
There we go. I think that's the moral of the story for this hour. We can figure this out together. Everything in nature has a purpose. I'm reminded of that when you say that. I think what we have to do as people is figure out how to just stop destroying it. Stop destroying nature, because climate change and all of these issues we see, y'all, it is very overwhelming, right? I saw a story. I'm not sure if you saw this, Jesse, but there were tornadoes on the East Coast too. Tornadoes in New Jersey, tornadoes in the New York area. And these are things that we were taught just wouldn't happen near large cities. And I'm often reminded of now this difference between, intellect and wisdom, like the things we were taught and the wisdom to say that in this moment, anything is possible. Anything is really possible on any side of the spectrum. And we have to truly be prepared to be our own heroes, y'all. We have to be prepared to come to the rescue of our fellow citizen and our brothers and sisters, regardless of their citizenship status, y'all. I think in this moment, we have to remember as well that we are the media collectively, just like we're the government, we're the media. These stories, such as the one that Jesse editorialized about Penn State, we bring this back up into the discussion so that people are aware. What happened in Gary was not getting the attention that it needed until people online continue to talk about it. You have to keep in mind, too, that many folks in the traditional media will go on social media to find out what's popping, what's cracking in the streets, right? What's going on? What are people talking about? So when we continue to talk about these things, we raise awareness. But the pivot we must continue to make is, what do we then do? When we hear about what happened in Penn State, we have to continue to remember to realize that there's a difference in how our kids are viewed. There's a difference in how we're treated in stories like this, because I was doing some quick Google research and during our breaks, and there are stories going back to the 70s, even probably beyond that, where you can find white students at PWIs doing this exact same thing from Princeton to Columbia and so on and so forth. And I was looking to see if I can find any, black fraternities that were involved in this, and time after time, I couldn't find any. And what I also found out too, as I was looking and doing some really, really quick research, was that many times these white frats were barely even punished. Barely punished. They may have gotten a couple years. They get a reduced sentence. But again, when we don't talk about it, they handle that stuff beneath the surface, right? Out of mind, out of sight, out of mind. So y'all remember that these things that we are expecting to change don't change without us. In addition to that, when we think about this Gary situation, I'm an educator by trade. This is the back to school season. Kids are not in school in Gary potentially because of this, right? Kids are not in school in Memphis in some of these schools as they're dealing with these power outages. When we think about the opportunity gap, when we see the differences in reading scores, math scores, and science scores, we have to include all of these different variables, but also remember that those scores can account for what is being built during these times. And we want to also make sure that we are building kids who are capable of addressing the needs of a community if and when this happens again. Because we don't look at these and say, I'm glad this isn't me. We look at these as an example of what could potentially happen to us here in America. We are all connected. We're all Flint. Yeah, right. We're all Gary. We're all Memphis. We're all LA. So y'all, let's continue to come together and let's continue to exercise that mutual aid and be critical of what the mass media is feeding us and not feeding us.
I love that, Ernest. Mutual aid. Boy, that's a big takeaway. Help ourselves. And let's not sit back and just watch. We'd expect more from the government, but we're not always going to get that. Ernest, thank you for being on our show today.
Thanks again for having me, brother.
You've been listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on Moving Mountain Mondays. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, Reverend Terry Hoard Owens, the president and general minister of the Christian Church Disciples of Christ in the United States and Canada. We are going to focus and shift our attention to Gary, Indiana. And I do have an opinion that I'm going to share when we come forward. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Listening to KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Esther Dillard with BIN News Now. Black Republican Florida Congressman Byron Donalds is under fire for blaming a measles outbreak on illegal immigration. Here's what he said on CBS's Face the Nation Sunday.
The reason why we have seen a measles outbreak in certain parts of the country is because of rampant illegal immigration into the United States.
Donalds pointed to outbreaks in El Paso and Southwest Florida, but offered no data to back the claim. The trial of the man accused of orchestrating Tupac Shakur's 1996 murder continues today in Las Vegas. Dwayne Keefe D. Davis is accused of planning the drive-by shooting that left the rapper fatally wounded 30 years ago. He's pleaded not guilty and could face life behind bars if convicted. And Pete Buttigieg is making a fresh play for black voters in South Carolina. According to CNN, some say this is for a possible 2028 presidential run. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers have won 6 straight after sweeping Pittsburgh Sunday. 4 Dodgers pitchers combined to allow the Pirates only 2 hits and a 4-0 win. The Dodgers won their 80th game of the season. They are 1 game behind Milwaukee for the best record in Major League Baseball. The Dodgers are now 15-13 since hanging out with Trump at the White House on July 23rd. Things are beginning to look up for the Dodgers with 31 games left in the regular season. We are 16 days away from the start of the NFL regular season on Wednesday, September 9th. First time in NFL history, the league is playing its regular season opener on a Wednesday. New England is at Seattle to take on the defending Super Bowl champs. The Rams and San Francisco kick off their regular season on Friday, September 11th in Melbourne, Australia. First NFL regular season game down under. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley.
Culture in my lifetime has been as impactful, if not more impactful, than politics or law or any other pursuit of business. You know, I like to say culture is undefeated.
Culture is undefeated. That's what Council President Marquise Harris Dawson says. And you know what? He's right. Culture is undefeated. But here's the problem. You don't get to celebrate the culture while ignoring the people who created it. And that's where this procrastination Crenshaw conversation gets real. As you know, the community sent a formal letter to Harris Dawson. We're still waiting for an official response from the city. The deadline is Friday, September 4th. But in the interim, Harris Dawson penned an open letter to the community. Okay, that's fine, but responding is not the same as answering. That said, let's not confuse fixing the parking, repairing the streetlights, and repaving streets and sidewalks with finishing Destination Crenshaw. The community was promised a transformational project. So, where is it? When is this thing going to be finished? The council president says the project is being delivered on a timeline. What timeline? That's not an unreasonable question. And that's not an attack. It's not division. That is accountability. And then there's the business interruption money. So in his letter, Harris Dawson says that more than $1 million went to Doolin's on Crenshaw, and additional assistance went to a few other individuals. Oh, really? Who received the money? How much money? And who didn't? I can assure you a whole lot of folk didn't get that money. How do I know? I'm getting the phone calls. You see, transparency should not scare anybody. That's how accountability works. And that's why in our letter, we ask for an audit. But instead, what do we get? A discussion about Tavis Smiley, the pastor, the parishioners, the business owners, the people asking the questions, their motives, their ambitions, their character. Well, let me tell you something. When you can't answer the questions, attacking, insulting, and gaslighting the persons asking the questions doesn't make the questions disappear. It just makes people ask why you won't answer it. Let me be clear. We don't want to fight with the council president. We want the project finished because the people of Crenshaw are not on the sidelines, Mr. President. They are Crenshaw. And if culture really is undefeated, then respect the culture, respect the people, respect the businesses, and most importantly, respect the questions. Now, answer them. The Crenshaw Corridor community is still waiting, and September 4th is fast approaching. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As always, we welcome your feedback.
Just talking louder and say nothing and say nothing. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA. Top 15.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Looking forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Moving Mountain Mondays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. And we do have some breaking news. Mayor Eddie Melton, within the last hour, has spoken with the President of the United States regarding the disaster and the need for disaster assistance in the city of Gary. Within the last hour, this is true. This conversation's ongoing, and the news is continuing to develop. I do have an editorial, however, because it's taken 13 days for that call, and that's how long families in Gary, Indiana have been sitting in the dark. The storm came through on August the 11th, a derecho, with winds near 100 miles an hour that snapped trees, tore down transmission lines, and knocked out power for more than 374,000 customers across NIPSCO's territory. 7 people in the region are dead, including a 4-year-old boy. Most of Northwest Indiana got its lights back on within days. Gary did not. At one point last week, more than 18,000 Gary households were still out. This morning, thousands remain. Children in that city started school this year without electricity at home. And when NIPSCO, that's their power company, published its list of restorations estimates city by city, Gary was not even on the list. Not delayed, not listed. A city of 69,000 people, nearly 80% Black, simply did not appear on the schedule. The utility says this is about geography, not race. An executive said plainly that they do not prioritize service based on color or socioeconomic status. I will take her word at that about her intent, but I have been in public life long enough to know the intent is not the measure. Outcome is the measure. And the outcome is that the blackest city in Indiana waited the longest. Mayor Eddie Melton has been relentless. He declared a local disaster emergency, demanded crews from around the country, held daily briefings, and said out loud what a lot of officials in his position would have just swallowed, that the pace of restoration is unacceptable. He stood up to hot meals and for hot meals, changing stations and tarps. He got 700 linemen and 300 vegetation crews into his city. He deserves the credit, and he deserves our help. Here's the part we cannot let pass. Governor Braun has now deployed the National Guard, sought an expedited federal declaration, and directed the state's utility consumer counselor to petition regulators to investigate NIPSCO. That's good. I welcome all of that. But look at the clock. That urgency arrived on day 12 after a Black mayor spent nearly 2 weeks on television after Bernice King, Reverend Dr. Bernice King, called this what it is after residents began begging strangers on social media for generators. Urgency should not have to be summoned. It should have shown up on day 2. And this did not start with the storm. Understand what Gary has been going through in the state of Indiana over the last decade. In 2017, the General Assembly declared Gary Community School Corporation a distressed political subdivision, stripped its elected community school board, and handed the district an emergency manager, a consulting firm from Tallahassee, Florida, paid millions to run the schools of a city it did not live in. That arrangement lasted 7 years. During it, the graduation rate fell, enrollment fell, and Roosevelt High School, one of 3 high schools built in the 1920s, Indiana, specifically to educate Black children white parents would not sit beside, was closed after its pipes burst and nobody would pay to fix them. Then there was even legislation filed that would have made the state apportion board permanent and barred Gary's teachers and bargaining collectively. Gary alone, no other district in Indiana. That is the pattern. When Gary's institutions fail, the state takes the keys. When Gary's people need something, pipes, poles, power, the state takes its time. This is the same arithmetic that closed the mills and left the tax base, the same arithmetic that made a city famous for making the steel mill that built America and then left it to be photographed as ruined. Gary gave this country its labor. It gave this country the Jackson family. It gave this country Richard Hatcher, one of the most progressive black mayors of an American major city. And in 1972, it hosted the National Black Political Convention. Gary, Indiana is not a symbol of decline. Gary is a place where the bill has never been paid. So step up today. Give. First Baptist Church of Gary, the Salvation Army, and the city's own recovery page at gary.gov/storm recovery are moving food, water, tarps, and supplies right now. It's Hard Rock and Glenn Robinson can each put up $100,000. The rest of us can put up what we have. Then demand. The Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission proceeding must hear from Gary residents directly, not just lawyers and executives. Every customer who lost 12 days deserves credit, not a bill. A federal individual assistance must reach people who cannot navigate a website in a house with no electricity. Bernice King said, Gary deserves more than survival. She's right. Do not let the lights come back on and the attention go out with them. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. When we come forward, the Honorable Terry Howard Owens, General Minister and President of the Christian Church, when we come forward right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, baby. Helping Gary a little bit.
The KBLA 1580 app puts the realest conversations right in your pocket. Stream live wherever you are in the world. No static. No searching the dial. A crystal clear connection 24/7, exactly when you want it. We recommend that you keep automatic updates enabled. Set it and forget it. So the app stays up to date with store requirements, bug fixes, and new features as we roll them out. Download the KBLA 1580 app today and stay plugged into the conversation everyone's having.
The way I do laundry hasn't really changed until now. Have you seen the new Tide Evo? It may look different, but now I get it. It's a super concentrated laundry detergent towel from Tide, packed with 6 layers of cleaning power. You just toss it in the washer and it dissolves instantly in water. It's built differently to fight tough stains. I love it because Tide Evo comes in a lightweight cardboard box. There's no bulky plastic bottle taking up space. It's perfect for me because I have no space for anything, especially with having twins. It's double the mess and double the load every time. And the biggest perk, it makes getting a Tide clean feel so easy. Try the new Tide Evo super concentrated laundry detergent today.
Small businesses are the heart of America. But you don't have to go it alone. As the nation's largest nonprofit resource of expert business mentoring, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses for free. Get the connections, education, and guidance you need with SCORE. We're ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
You have something to say, and we want to hear it. KBLA Talk 1580 is engagement radio, not outrage radio. A place where your hopes, your frustrations, and your ideas are welcome. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Real talk, real people, real Los Angeles. KBLA Talk 1580, the station that sounds like the city looks. Tune in on your AM radio dial at 1580. Download our free KBLA 1580 app or listen live on our website at KBLA1580.com.
Unapologetically progressive.
Just in case you missed our Procrastination Crenshaw Town Hall.
My name is Khalifa Bey. I am the founder of the South LA Bureau of Tourism and Trade. And how this is impacting me is that I can't promote it. I won't promote it. I hear a lot of talk about everybody. Accountability is responsibility. Change your vote. Change the vote. I know there's a lot of Democrats in this room, and I get all that. But if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result, it ain't going to happen. And it's not about Democrat, Republican. It's about getting what we need to get done. That's what it is for me, because this is deliberate. This of our communities. You look at Chicago. You look at all the black communities were built by us. We're in the same condition. So to me, It's by design. And if we don't do something to change the vote to get to what we need, stop having these meetings.
Making sure they stick to the truth. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1500. We're in the Faith Not to Fall with Reverend Terry Hord Owens. It's Moving Mountain Monday, and we are in the J Lunch Club. Reverend Terry Hord Owens is the general minister and president of the Christian Church, the Disciples of Christ, in the United States and Canada. She's an author, an advocate for the church living out its calling. She's the first person of color and the second woman to lead a major Christian denomination in the United States. Madam President, welcome forward to the show.
Oh, good to be with you.
Madam President, can we start with Gary, Indiana?
Yes, let's.
Madam President, your thoughts on the disparity?
You know, I live right on the Illinois-Indiana border, and so those derecho storms that hit Gary and other parts of Northwest Indiana sort of blew through us, skirted us. We just lost a few tree limbs, but I saw all the furor from Dr. Bernice King and others online and tried to amplify that myself. But as you noted in your editorial, this is nothing new in terms of people ignoring Gary, not only across the nation, but in the state of Indiana. I grew up in Indiana, Terre Haute, Indiana, and I know other than Indianapolis, I think Gary is the other largest city in the country and has been for some time. Indiana is the home of the resurgence of the Klan in the early 20th century. The Republican Party in Indiana was for decades and really still is controlled by elements of the Ku Klux Klan. And my family has been in Indiana since the 1820s. So real familiar with the racist history of this state. And I think there's no other description for what has happened. Everything that you mentioned, from sort of outsourcing control of the public school system to, it's not only that the steel mills have declined, there are areas of huge environmental pollution in Gary. And there are people in Gary, east of Gary, who even filed suit against the steel companies for their failure to steward the remains of that work and the environmental impact that the steel industry has had on that area. So there's not a good story to tell. Richard Hatcher, Black woman Karen Freeman Wilson, who was mayor several years ago, but I keep saying the issue is always racism in the United States. And unless we call that out and name what it is, we're just kidding ourselves.
Yeah, I got, for those of you who think that when you watch the evolution of the story of the Jackson family and Michael Jackson, and everybody's mad at Joe Jackson and kicking Joe Jackson's behind for this and for that. Listen, Joe Jackson understood Gary.
Yeah.
And he understood having young Black men and young Black women as children, and he wanted them out of there.
He wanted them out of there.
And the consequences of that is a different kind of father with almost 2 handful of kids. That's real.
Yeah.
That's real. Don't separate Joe Jackson from his context, right, Madam President?
Oh, absolutely. And there are, again, a city like Gary where you have really one economic engine. If you drive through Gary today, there are just all sorts of, it's desolate. It really is a desolate place. There was our college choir toured there in the spring one year, and I think there was a Sheraton hotel that was still active. But my dad in the early 60s taught at Tolleson Junior High in Gary for a couple of years, and had such a difficult time just even as a teacher, right? Being given agency to kind of do it and shape his courses the way he wanted. But we almost moved to Gary, except for his frustration with just the nature of the public school system at that time. Even then in the 64, 65, right? So it's Indiana. It's just Indiana.
It's also the same story everywhere. And I got this political doctrine that I'm working on right here with you right now as we speak it through. And I would share this with my Republican friends or my Democratic friends. And I don't have to call them white. When the storm comes, you can never go wrong if you fix the Negroes stuff first. Because we know we're always last. Right. You'll never be called the R word. You'll never be called insensitive. Fix us first. We know you can get to us eventually. Fix us first and then get to everybody else eventually.
Yeah.
You'll never go wrong. Whether that's Destination Crenshaw, whether that's Altadena, whether that's Gary, Indiana, or whether it's Katrina. You're going to get to us.
Or whether it's beaches on the south side of Chicago, right?
Absolutely.
Or transportation depots on the south side of Chicago. Or my sister was here from Atlanta. We live in Calumet City. Driving north into the city, you see all kinds of trash and debris and everything south on the Bishop Ford. Miraculously, things change a little bit once you get to Dan Ryan, but you go north of the city. Pristine lawn on the banks of the hills that line those expressways. You go outside, you go along 294. And she said, do you mean to tell me that these things look differently in predominantly Black communities than they do in
Black leadership? And we have Black representatives. And let me tell you what the problem is with that. And I think that's right where Tavis Smiley is with Marquise Dawson or the president of the city council in Los Angeles. And that is, we don't bring the standard that holds the government accountable to our community when we get the office.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any clearer than that. I mean, I found myself contacting as congressman, that's not my job, the Illinois Department of Transportation to clean the damn highway.
Yeah.
To cut the brush back off of the Bishop Ford freeway. I'm a congressman, but there are state officials, there are state representatives who drive down the same highway every day. There are city council persons who drive right through Crenshaw every day. And I know they're sitting in the back with the driver, with their cell phone. I know they're important. They're wearing their suits and their ties. You're looking at the same stuff we walk by every day, but at no point in time does your mind say to yourself, it's my responsibility to make sure that this stuff is cleaned up. Yeah. And I took it upon myself to do just that. That matters in our calculation. And I'm grateful to Tavis Smiley for holding the city council in Los Angeles and the mayor accountable to a standard. We want to look like Beverly Hills too.
Yeah, yeah. You think about the landscaping along Stony Island as you're entering the city from the south. There's almost like this river of green and gloriousness, right?
That's new.
Yeah, that's new. Some of it's new, and we know why that's new. But it's always been, that used to be my path to the University of Chicago, and you go a block east in some places along Stony. You've got the whole Pill Hill area, but a block west, you've got a very different story. They're not getting the city landscaping. They're not getting the trees. They don't have the in-ground watering systems that are keeping those medians lush and beautiful. And it's something I point out to people here in Chicago. Chicago remains one of the most segregated cities in the country, if not the. And even though Black folks are in different parts of the city, there is still a concentration by race and ethnicity in this city. And too often when we do get Black and brown folks get into these positions, we become too enamored with, we become really comfortable within the system, forget why we said we wanted to be on the inside, to change the system to begin with. We begin to worship the institutions instead of holding them accountable to do the work that we said we wanted to do if we were elected or called to these positions.
That's one of the things I love about Eddie Melton. I mean, there's been plenty of black mayors after Gordon Hatcher. There's been a couple of white ones, and a couple of white ones too. But there have been plenty of black mayors after Gordon Hatcher. But it's Eddie Melton who's walking down the street and saying, we're cleaning this up. We're putting a stop sign here. We're putting a stoplight here. We're cleaning up the police department's uniforms. There will be no guns brought into this facility while I'm mayor. I mean, he is the standard as he travels from one end of the city, holding everyone who works for the city accountable to a higher standard. And somehow when we get in the office, like Brother Marquise, I'm sure what his name is. Harris Dawson. Okay, Marquise Harris Dawson at Los Angeles. You know, he hasn't showed up to even talk to Tavis at KBLA. I mean, how many more editorials can a brother take in public life when Tavis is bringing that kind of smoke? And that's my point.
Yeah.
You're part of the community. It's not separate and apart from who you are. You have an obligation and a responsibility for the highest possible standard, just like when you go have a cup of tea with your pinky finger sitting in the air because you're around a bunch of white folk. Right? The rest of us are drinking coffee from McDonald's.
Yeah. And these are the communities. These are the communities that nourished you. These are the communities that made who you are possible. So for you to forget and not hold the very systems, you become part of the oppressive structures, and that's just that's a form of self-hatred, unfortunately, because if you think that who you have been is not good enough, and how you have been is not good enough to operate inside those systems, in those structures. I say all the time, I may be the first Black person to sit in this chair, but the goal and my call has never been to be a whitewash or a colorized version of what has preceded me. And there's a cost to pay. There's a cost to pay for being true to yourself and true to your people. There's a cost to pay, but I will pay that cost over and over again, because it has to do with how you look at yourself in the mirror. And it has to do with what is it that you really care about. So when I see people, my husband laughs every time I say this, when I see people making decisions that I disagree with or don't make sense, I'm always asking the question, something's more important to you right now. So what is that? So what's more important to these city officials than Crenshaw? Something is more important because you're not making it happen. And help us understand where your priorities are.
Madam President, I think that's the point right there, where your priorities are. Madam President, I do have a question before we come forward. We got about 2.5 minutes. We'll change the subject matter after we come back from our break. But your thoughts about the cocaine scandal at Penn State? Why is it that these young people are not being broadcast over the news? And why isn't Penn State being threatened like you know as well as I do, and HBCU would be?
Mm-hmm. It's the whole boys will be boys, but what they really mean are white boys will be white boys. And it is a continued attempt to criminalize and the nature of anything that might be associated with Black folks, and to elevate anything that might be associated with white kids. Any campus in the country. I saw a white fraternity when I was at the University of Chicago that were just up in arms because they had been put on suspension for the rest of a quarter, total 10 weeks, for just not being suspended functioning. Just they couldn't have any more social activities because they had some anti-Semitic and anti-Palestinian in particular, Islamophobic kinds of costumes and dressing, and they couldn't for the life of them understand why. No, we would never do that. And the idea that they would be held accountable or have to pay a cost for their offense was just beyond them. So we don't want to hold people accountable. We want to criminalize non-white culture. And how dare anyone try to hold these white boys accountable in the frats? It's been going on for generations.
I think that's what we have to pay attention to right there. That our culture is being criminalized. So the behavior that we might think was okay, their culture is not being criminalized for the exact same thing, and even worse.
Yeah, yes.
And even worse, they're not being criminalized for it. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, The Faith Not to Fall with Reverend Terry Horde Owens. She earned her Master of Divinity degree at the University of Chicago Divinity School, where she was a Disciple Divinity House Scholar and a recipient of the John Gray Rind Award, given to the top MDiv graduate at the Divinity School. More on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show when we come forward, right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Esther Dillard with BIN News Now. The White House is unveiling what it calls an economic D-Day for Iran. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the new sanctions amount to an economic onslaught against Iran to further isolate it from the rest of the world. Speaking from the Treasury Department on Monday, Bessent said Operation Economic Outcast will cut off Iran from exporting oil and from other trade.
Our objective is to sever every economic lifeline.
President Trump is increasing tariffs on cars, trucks, and auto parts from Canada to 50%. He made the announcement in a Truth Social post this morning after two countries failed to reach a trade agreement over the weekend. And Black Republican Florida Congressman Byron Donalds is under fire for blaming a measles outbreak on illegal immigration. Donalds pointed to outbreaks in El Paso and Southwest Florida, but offered no data to back the claim. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique, but you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Cleveland Browns head coach Todd Monken announced Monday morning that Deshaun Watson, not Shedeur Sanders, will be the team's starting quarterback in Week 1. Watson beat out Deion Sanders despite missing the entire 2025 season and having a shaky performance in Saturday's preseason game against Buffalo. 5 out of 12 completions for only 35 yards and 1 interception. Browns fans booed Watson during the game. Sanders started the final 8 games for the Browns last season, but apparently did not perform well enough in practice and 2 preseason games to keep the job. In the 2 games, Sanders was 15-22 for 153 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. It might have been a tough call for the Browns franchise to keep Watson on the bench with his $46 million salary this season. Watson also cost the Browns 3 first-round draft picks when they traded for him in 2022. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Don't be anxious or confused about AI. Take control of your career when you get the skills to tackle real business problems and design specialized solutions. HR Dive reported that entry-level talent with applied AI credentials can receive up to a 25% salary boost. But where do you find training that you can trust? Future-proof your career and deliver more value with Humans Lead the Way AI. Their hybrid learning courses use practical definitions, real-world examples, and strategic insights to help you and your team understand AI with confidence. No magic, no hacks, no shortcuts. Just practical knowledge that helps you use AI more successfully. Don't wait. AI can never replace people who know how to use it well. Register for courses today at humansleadtheway.com. That's humansleadtheway.com.
Hi, I'm John Wood Jr., host of the Kingdom Project, weekends on KBLA Talk 1580. Black America has a tradition of holding the United States of America to the standard of her stated principles when it comes to democracy. When the country has said all men are created equal, Black people have demanded that we mean it. In the long history of holding America accountable to the promise of her ideals, no name looms larger than Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day.
But as the country has drifted from the ideals of Dr. King, do Black people have a special obligation to revive Dr. King's philosophy? Furthermore, does the Black church have a responsibility to renew the moral leadership of America and reacquaint the nation with the gospel principles that inform Dr. King's philosophy? Tune in Sundays at 9 a.m. Pacific as I make the case for the revival of the philosophy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the moral leadership of the Black church, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We do have breaking news. Just within the last hour, U.S. Senator Jim Banks, Republican of Indiana, and Gary Mayor Eddie Melton spoke to President Donald John Trump over the phone Monday, providing him with an update about the good things going on in Gary. While also keeping him in the loop about the storm damage and the impacts being felt on the ground by residents. Trump approved a presidential emergency declaration for Indiana at Governor Mike Braun's request. On August 15th, Banks said on Monday that Trump knows about another request from the Indiana congressional delegation requesting direct assistance to families, homeowners, renters, and others who've been impacted by the August 11th derecho. I want to go back to this one sentence right here. An update about the good things going on in Gary. Okay, that sounds like a call to Donald Trump before the storm, because Eddie Melton was doing some good things in Gary that should have received the support of the federal government and supporters. There are some actions taking place in Gary as a result of the derecho. But of course, from the President of the United States, we expect the government's involvement in our community, not only when storms come, but when we need schools funded and when we need health care and when we need Medicare and Medicaid. Those are also good things that should be going on in Gary. The tax incentives to bring corporations and jobs to Gary, those are potentially good things that could also go on in Gary to help Mayor Eddie Melton in the city of Gary, because the power of the federal government has the power to do so. Anytime we can spend, I think, $20 billion in Venezuela, Madam President, there's something to be said about the billions of dollars that the government itself spends in other countries with Donald Trump's adventures, and we simply can't find the resources right here at home for the people of Gary. Madam President?
Again, when people make decisions that seemingly don't make sense or even fly in the face of what they themselves have articulated. This was supposed to be the America First president. We're not getting into unnecessary forever wars. We're not. We're going to keep our aid money here at home. And all that happened was the slashing of the spending that was providing that aid in order for the ultra rich to have tax breaks. And we're going to save Israel. We're going to save Venezuela. We're going to do all these things around the country. We're going to talk to Russians. We're going to do all these things. and yet Americans are the ones who are paying the heavy cost and the heavy price of these decisions. So the only thing I think that interests the president currently is lining his own pockets, because he's walked all over his own promises in order to make his own money.
Madam President, what are you hearing from members of your church? There's probably no more a diverse denomination in the United States than the one that you're the president of.
Mhm.
What are the diverse groups actually saying about this?
You know, we've got a mix. The polarization that's there in the American public at large is there, but I would also say that people who initially will admit that, oh, they voted for Trump, are getting more and more frustrated by not only the war, the high price of gas, the continued challenge to pay for everything from housing to electricity to food, etc. I would say for the most part, people have a very clear understanding of the immorality of this president. I still have to struggle against the mindset of a few that says the church shouldn't be speaking on these particular issues. And I chalk that up to simply not knowing really who Jesus was, or understanding what is said in the Bible from both the Hebrew prophets and of Jesus in terms of what the role of the leaders of God's people are supposed to be doing. Every religious tradition has some commandment, some imperative to take care of the poor, to fight for justice. And so people of faith have always had that. So there's a bit of a disconnect, and it's the impact of Christian nationalism, which says in order to be a good American, I have to be a certain kind of Christian. And in order to be a certain kind of Christian, I have to have a no. I do not critique the country if I'm a good Christian. There are people in our church and many other Christian denominations who believe that. But I am seeing an increasing desire to speak out and to act, and to, the church voted as part of our online General Assembly this year to discuss the issues of poverty and healthcare, and what the church could do to address those things and how we can advocate. So I see people moving away from what's been, some disciples of Christ want to be neutral on these matters. My thing is that as people of faith, as people who follow Jesus, we cannot be neutral. We must speak truth to power and advocate for that kind of justice. So,
Madam President, I find it somewhat fascinating that we're moving from the language of woke culture and using terms like woke to the reality that everyone is waking up to the problem. I mean, it's right there, and you don't have to call it woke. We just feel some kind of way.
Right. And I'm in rooms with leaders. I was in DC with a group of leaders just last week. And one of the things that people will try to say is like, oh, we have to be, as moral faith leaders, we have to be kind and not make people pay because they were the ones who voted for Trump. And now they're waking up, as you said, and starting to realize the error of their ways. We can't punish them. We have to find a way to, bring them back into the fold. So that's a particularly frustrating element of this. When you go to the parts of Appalachia and poor and low wealth communities in the country, the reality is that white Christians are the ones who voted for Trump. And I was in an interracial, interfaith group on last Thursday when this data was just laid on the table to say, the press will talk about, oh, the Black men who voted for Trump, or even the Hispanics who voted for Trump. White Christians voted for Trump in such numbers. White women who claim to be Christians voted for 6 of 10 of white Christians voted for Trump. That's not just evangelical Christians. That's people who labeled themselves as Christians. So I'm glad I get to be in spaces with some people who are willing to speak truth and to name those things that are for just what they are. So I'm seeing some energy within the broader faith community. And that's, again, I'm in a lot of interfaith spaces. So we have imams and we have rabbis who understand that to critique Israel, for example, is not to slander the Jewish people. There are people who understand that we have to speak up about these things. There are Muslim leaders who are balancing Islamophobia with their need to also claim the fact that they too are Americans, and that the Constitution never said no religion but this religion. That's never what the Constitution or the Bill of Rights says. So people are waking up, and so if leaders are waking up, my real challenge, I think, is how do we get down to the people in the pews? In certain communities where we want good worship, ooh, we want to shout, pastor better preach, but don't ask me to do much more than that. And that's far too common. We've got to wake up those people in the pews to ensure that they not only vote, but they're paying attention and educating themselves and speaking, calling up their city councilman, calling up their dog catcher, calling up state and local representatives, calling again who are those people who are simply not operating in their best interest. Somebody said to me, you can never say that people vote against their best interest. We just don't know what calculus they're making to identify what their interests are. And I think there's something to be said for that. People make some strange, they twist themselves into some interesting pretzels in order to make certain decisions. And we have to figure out why that is.
Madam President, I appreciate that. I should share with you that when we come forward, I do want to have a conversation with you about the March on Washington. I'm supporting the efforts of Reverend Al Sharpton and Martin Luther King III to have a March on Washington, because the moment could not be more appropriate, more propitious, and more necessary. The question I'd like to ask you is, do they still work? I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580 with Reverend Dr. Terry Hord Owens in just a moment.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Just in case you missed our Procrastination Crenshaw Town Hall.
My name is Bronwyn, and I've been in this neighborhood for 65 years.
All righty.
I was raised here, right on Crenshaw Boulevard. Ancestry, legacy, everything. No parking. In regards to our elderly, in regards to trying to get from one end to the other, 48th and 50th Street is a dead zone. You got to get off the bus and you got to make your way down in the middle of the block. I'm right across the street. I understand one of the things. I am happy to see you guys. I've been in too many meetings where you weren't there. I understand those who own the buildings and your properties. I understand those who rent from you. Here it is. Why can't we invest in each other?
Making sure they follow through. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
It's game day. Are your moderate to severe Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms keeping you from the action? Skyrizi, risankizumab Riza, could help you get back to the game. Skyrizi is proven to help people feel significant symptom relief, achieve remission, and visibly improve damage of the intestinal lining. Skyrizi is a prescription injection medicine for adults. Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines. Liver problems leading to hospitalization may occur when treated for Crohn's or ulcerative colitis.
Control is everything to me.
Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 prescribed biologic in Crohn's and ulcerative colitis combined. Learn more at skyrizi.com or 1-866-SKYRIZI.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Created with a share of the 1984 Olympic Games surplus, LA 84 began operations in 1985 as a grant-making and educational foundation. Today, the LA 84 Foundation supports hundreds of nonprofit youth sports organizations throughout Southern California annually, trains coaches, commissions research, convenes conferences, and maintains the world's premier Olympic and sports library collection. They are transforming lives and communities through the power of youth sports. To find out about youth sports programs for yourself or your child, and to get information about the grants and support they offer to schools and nonprofits, or if you want to make a donation, please visit la84.org. That's la84.org. Or you can call them at 323-730-4600. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project.
Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail, and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail, because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Roger and Tracy saved over $18,400. Cynthia was recovering from a family tragedy and saved over $10,300. If you are drowning in debt, then call Debt Blue. Debt Blue is a professional debt negotiation firm with over 20 years of experience helping people pay back a fraction of what they owe. Or maybe more. Be debt free in 24 to 48 months, even with bad credit. With an A+ rating from the BBB, you can rest easy knowing Debt Blue is going to deliver guaranteed debt reduction. Debt Blue offers a success guarantee. You pay nothing unless your debt is reduced or completely resolved. That's right. You save money or it's free. Call now for significant debt relief and a free consultation. 800-200-8879. That's 800-200-8879. You don't have to declare bankruptcy. This program works if you owe $10,000, $20,000, or even $100,000 in debt. Call for your free consultation today. 800-200-8879. That's 800-200-8879.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 15.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We're in the Faith Not the Fall with Reverend Terry Hord Owens, the General Minister and President of the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ in the United States and Canada, an author and an advocate for the church living out its calling. She is the first person of color and the second woman to lead the denomination. And since her election in 2017, Reverend Hord Owens' ministry actively reflects the disciples' priority of being an anti-racist church, being a movement for wholeness, welcoming all to the Lord's table as God has welcomed us. Madam President, welcome forward to the show.
Oh, thank you. It's always good to be with you.
Madam President, I am supportive of what Reverend Al Sharpton is doing and what Martin Luther King III are doing, and I guess Ben Crump and others will also be there. I want to say something about the magnanimity of Reverend Al Sharpton. He invited my younger brother, Yusef Jackson, the new president and CEO of the Rainbow Coalition, to be a speaker. So I can only imagine that Reverend Sharpton's outreach, which is unusual for Black leadership, that isn't very comfortable in their own space, to include as many people as possible with varying points of view to participate. And so kudos to Reverend Sharpton, because he is a big man on campus when it comes to social justice in the United States. And I'm particularly proud to call him my friend, to call him my uncle. And I can't thank him enough for the time he spent with my father and my family while my dad was convalescing. No one did it more. No one did it more thoughtfully and kinder than Reverend Al Sharpton. These are very different times. And the questions are still being raised as to whether or not marches are effective. I might add that this march, I believe on August 28th, coincides with about 60 days before the November election. And so there's a lot to be said about us getting together and getting some directions on what we need to do to regain control of the Congress and stop this tyranny. Madam President, your thoughts. Do marches work anymore?
I think they do. I think we have to reimagine them. I think the reason that marches have always worked is the visual of those massive numbers. Even the 1 million man march, just the sight of so many people showing up to voice their concern. After George Floyd's murder, we had people all over Chicago and other major cities just filling the streets, stopping traffic. It was a visible sign. And in today's environment, sometimes I think people, I've had a young person say, well, we don't need to march and do all that stuff anymore. And I
Hey,
said,
never mind. This always comes from people who've never marched.
people have never marched. My frame of reference is, going back to the Montgomery bus boycott, 1955-56, to say, if you could give me an example of how you have effectively organized a community to be so disciplined and to achieve as much action, if you can show me other disciplined ways of protest and advocacy that generated results in the same way the civil rights movement, then I might be willing to listen to you. But absent any results from your organized labors, I find it hard to buy that result. I do know what's also happening is that when people are doing things in DC, they're also trying to get people online and using that as another way to say, look, we have X million people, right, also online. Not everybody can get to DC. And I think there needs to be a way to allow for the fact that not everybody can just pick up and go to Washington, D.C. If you're being supported by organizations, I could pick up and go. I have another longstanding commitment, or I would be in D.C. myself. I can pick up and go because that's part of my job, and I have an organization that supports my expenses to be places. But for most people, that's a huge sacrifice. So I think we also need to find other ways where people can register, get people to register so you can count them. I think counting people who are involved in things is really important. The other thing I think is that that visual of bringing so many people together is not to be understated. Desmond Tutu tells the story, or told the story rather, of a huge group of clergy who went to the Parliament building in Johannesburg and to the Parliament and draped in all their finest vestments. And there were so many of them that one of the white parliamentary members was heard to have said, apartheid is done here because these people see this as holy work. And I'm always thinking and talking with people about what does it need to look like so that people take us serious and recognize that we see this as holy work and that we will not be deterred. Is it ministers in robes? Is it thousands and thousands or maybe even hundreds of thousands of people showing up in DC? What does that look like? But I think the visual is really important because the visual will get the media's attention. The visual will help tell the story. And in many ways, we can't forget what happened on August 28th, 1963. That those things that Dr. King said we can't, that promissory note still has not been satisfied. There are still things that the United States owes to Black people, to poor people, to people of every ilk. But I think we can't forget that history. And I fear that too many of our younger people, first of all, don't know it, let alone trying to remember it.
There's no doubt in my mind that marching still works. And
Yeah.
the very people who say, you've never marched. I've never seen you at a march.
Right. But
So now you're complaining about marching, but you've not been there. And so why discourage people who are fighting
Yeah.
for your
it's
goals
a
and cause?
visual sign of
Yeah.
solidarity. I'm in DC a couple of times a month, and there have been times, and sometimes I'm there more often than that. And it's always to be in solidarity with other leaders, to show our face somewhere in a congressional briefing room, outside what used to be the front lawn of the White House, which is now just a horrible construction zone, or just to be somewhere in solidarity so that people see what you're doing.
That was a big deal. That was a big deal for Dr. King, that in the march, you gained strength from your fellow marchers, that they
Yes.
gave you courage
Yeah.
to fight the good fight.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. And you saw that most recently here in DC, in Chicago, with all of the marching that happened around George Floyd's murder. I was downtown for all of that. I was I joined when people were marching about the young man who was shot, 16 times. And that particular march was just people from all over the place. There were people of every hue, people with babies and strollers down there marching. So I think if people care, you give them an opportunity to be together and say that they care. I think it matters. But I do think we have to find other ways to add to the numbers, because I think one of the most important things we do in March is we quantify the support. And if we can quantify the support, both in person and online, I think we simply add to our argument there.
Thank you, Madam President, for being with us.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
You've been listening to The Faith Not the Fall with Reverend Teresa Terry Hord Owens. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Tomorrow's Tenacious Tuesday on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show with Liz King and Barbara Armwine. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Esther Dillard with BIN News Now. The White House is unveiling what it calls an economic D-Day for Iran. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the new sanctions amount to an economic onslaught against Iran to further isolate it from the rest of the world. Speaking from the Treasury Department on Monday, Bessent said Operation Economic Outcast will cut off Iran from exporting oil and from other trade.
Our objective is to sever every economic lifeline.
President Trump is increasing tariffs on cars, trucks, and auto parts from Canada.